Since 1973, street school has been the alternative high school of choice when traditional high school just hasn't been working, and life has gotten in the way.
Street School kicks off 2015 with a look at racial issues in our country. We will raise many questions and voice many opinions. Student interviews will be conducted to depict the many areas of awareness that we are exploring. All technical work on this documentary has been done by Street School students.
My banner says, "I have a dream." That is all it took. One man started changing the way things were. His name was Martin Luther King Jr. He helped make equal rights between people in the United States.
Since the philosophy of nonviolence plays such a positive role in the Montgomery movement, it may be wise to turn to a brief discussion of some basic aspects of the philosophy.
I notice in the world that when one quality issue is solved, another one is stirred up. The way I look at it is there's always going to be hate, and some people are just so full of hate, they always want something to hate or antagonize. A good example is what's going on overseas, such as fighting the terrorist, extremist groups and attacks on Paris. The way I see it is that war and hate have been part of mankind since the dawn of time, from fighting with swords and shields to now with nuclear bombs. Yes, humanity may be not like that, but it is a hard, cold truth we all have to face.
First, it must be emphasized that the nonviolent resistance is not a method for cowards. It does resist. If one uses this method because he is afraid or merely because he lacks the instrument of violence, he is not truly nonviolent. This is why Gandhi often said that if cowardice is the only alternative to violence, it is better to fight. He made this statement conscious of the fact that there is always another alternative. No individual or group need to submit to any wrong, nor need they use the violence to right the wrong. There is the way of the nonviolent resistance. This is ultimately the way of the strong man. It is not a method of stagnant passivity. The phrase passive resistance often gives the false impression that it is a sort of do-nothing method in which the resistor quietly and passively accepts evil, but nothing is further from the truth, for while the nonviolent resistor is passive in the sense that he is not physically aggressive towards his opponent, his mind and his emotions are always active, constantly seeking to persuade his opponent that he is wrong. The method is passive physically, but strongly active spiritually. It is not passive non-resistance to evil. It is active non-violent resistance to evil.
My poster represents something that is much needed in this cold world, and it's peace. If the world could get along, there would be no wars, no racism. Like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, dark can't drive out dark, only the light can do that.
Isn't it offensive to find entertainment such as movies and shows obliterating the humanity of others? Just because a man is African American does not mean they are a thug nor a criminal. He could be the nicest man you ever met. He is a father, grandfather, son, or a friend. Do you really believe everything you see? Even the news you watch shows the worst, most ugly pictures you can find to show that the man who robbed the convenience store to take care of his dying daughter is a criminal who you need to watch out for. The truth is, these people are just that, people. They love and are loved. Don't believe everything you see. I realize the world is a hard place, but learn to trust humanity a little.
A second basic fact that characterizes nonviolence is that it does not seek to defeat or humiliate the opponent, but to win his friendship and understanding. The nonviolence resistor must often express his protest through non-cooperation or boycotts, but he realizes that these are not in themselves. They are merely means to awaken a sense of moral shame in the opponent. The end is redemption and reconciliation. The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community. While the aftermath of violence is tragic bitterness, a third characteristic of this method is that the attack is directed against forces of evil rather than against persons who happen to be doing the evil.
We need to work together instead of going against each other. We need to hold one another up instead of pushing one another down.
It is evil that nonviolent resistors seek to defeat, not the persons victimized by evil. If he is opposing racial injustice, the nonviolent resistor has the vision to see that the basic tension is not between races. As I like to say to the people in Montgomery, the tension in this city is not between white people and Negro people. The tension is at bottom, between justice and injustice, between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. And if there is a victory, it will be a victory not merely for 50,000 Negroes, but a victory for justice and the forces of light. We are out to defeat injustice, and not white persons who may be unjust.
Also, we should know who these officers are that are there for our community. There should be more contact than just the confrontation about something that the citizen did wrong. Or most people, just regular citizens, don't really know the laws of the community in which they live.
What's the feeling among Tulsa police officers, at least around, this incident, the earlier one in Ferguson?
Did you file a report? Did you document everything that took place? Because what we want is, if that officer is abusing their power, we want as much evidence as possible. We want to make sure that we handle this correctly, because there are two sides to every story.
I think that directly opposes something that we are usually taught from a very young age about standing up for your right.
I've been in situations like you're talking about, where the officer comes up and he's pretty rude, maybe at first. I don't feel very respected by the officer, but I know that if I don't show him almost overly respectful behavior, keep my hands visible the whole time, that things are going to probably get worse. But if I do that, things will get better.
Let's say you're in the right. You weren't speeding. You weren't doing anything. Let's say you were racially profiled. So you think you're allegedly racially profiled. The officer stopped you because you're driving while being brown, in my case. Don't pick the fight on the street, because you are going up against somebody who's been educated, someone who knows how to write up the report to favor the officer if that officer is allegedly doing something that is inappropriate. Wait, play it out, be respectful, and then afterwards, when you know that you did not do anything wrong, then ask one of your teachers, your parents, or somebody, I did not do this, that they're saying I did this. Get adults to get behind you on this issue.
They know what the public attitude is a lot of times towards law enforcement. They know what they're up against when they walk up to an individual in any given case. What is it that officers can be doing to help de-escalate a citizen's concerns and fears about them potentially abusing their power? Why are we the ones that have to assuage the officers? Why can't the officers help de-escalate the situation?
We want sort of two things from our law enforcement officer. Mm-hmm. We want a safe community, and therefore we want folks who are willing to step up and to step into the middle of protecting us. By the same token, we want the kind of respect that you're describing, and the tension that I always seem to feel is around the approach that so many police officers that I either see or hear from, and not just in these kind of inflammatory situations, but the approach that says, I'm in control of the situation, I'm not going to listen to what you're saying, you just need to answer my questions. I don't care about whatever else you're saying, answer my question. I don't care about what you're saying, answer my question. That kind of feeling of powerlessness, regardless of the racial issues that only compound that, often, I think, escalate a situation, because somebody who feels powerless is looking for ways not to de-escalate, but to sort of defend.
What I see happening out there is that the way the officers are trained, their approach, which you described perfectly, that's their approach, and they're approaching with a lot of fear. They don't know where those hands are. They could get killed here. So they're approaching with a lot of fear, but even with that fear, the person's not feeling respected initially. And what you're saying is, well, even though you're not feeling respected, you need to overtly give them respect and cooperate.
To me, my poster means if you aren't willing to stand up for what you believe in, to speak up for what matters to you, then what are you really living for?
A fourth point that characterizes nonviolent resistance is the willingness to accept suffering without retaliation, to accept blows from the opponent without striking back. Rivers of blood may have to flow before we gain our freedom, but it must be our blood, Gandhi said to his countrymen. The nonviolent resistor is willing to accept violence if necessary, but never to inflict it. He does not seek to dodge jail if going to jail is necessary. He enters it as a bridegroom enters the bride's chamber.
You may think that keeping silent keeps you from conflict, but in reality, being silent is saying you are okay with what's happening.
One may well ask, what is the nonviolent resistor's justification for this ordeal, to which he invites men for the mass political application of the ancient doctrine of turning the other cheek? The answer is found in realization that unearned suffering is redemptive. Suffering, the nonviolent resistors realize, has tremendous educational and transforming possibilities. Things of fundamental importance to people are not secured by reason alone, but have to be purchased with their suffering, said Gandhi. He continues, suffering is infinitely more powerful than the law of the jungle, for converting the opponent and opening his ears, which are otherwise shut to the voice of reason.
I believe the good people were silenced as all the bad people were heard word for word.
A fifth point concerning nonviolence resistance is that it avoids not only external physical violence but also internal violence of spirit. The nonviolent resistor not only refuses to shoot his opponent, but he also refuses to hate him. At the center of the nonviolence stands the principle of love. The nonviolent resistor would contend that in the struggle of human dignity, the oppressed people of the world must not succumb to the temptation of becoming bitter or indulging in hate campaigns. To retaliate in kind would do nothing but intensify the extent of hate in the universe. Along the way of life, someone must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate. This can only be done by projecting the ethic of love to the center of our lives.
I take my poetry like I take my sermons and my news. No music. Give it to me with all the solemnity you can muster, so I feel nothing writhing in my veins but the cold and even blade of what's true. No melodies to move me. I see no point in being moved if there will be no movement. And as I watch the lifeless body of another unarmed child, I cannot move. Dear Ferguson, heard y'all had some trouble up there. And I'm just writing to say I'm as sorry as I am helpless. No, I'm writing to say I hope you don't sing. Not this time. It's been 1 week since one of your babies was forcibly escorted to final rest, breathless, bulleted, and bathing in blood. And I'm writing to say that as of 10:56 p.m. Central Standard Time, August 16th, 2014, the unedited outrage of this callous injustice ain't even trending on Facebook no more. Don't sing, Ferguson. Not if you feel like you're drowning, feet floundering in wet cement, gasping just enough air not to choke on hopelessness as you fight to keep the canaries out of your windpipes. Don't sing. Because Ferguson, I'm starting to think that the savage beast soothed by music can never be slain. And this violently nonchalant disregard for our lives must die. Maybe the only soundtrack we need now is the acceleration of Michael's pulse right before it thudded slowly into silence. Let's not drown it out. Not while we're drowning. And I don't know if the picket signs work. Don't know what you need to occupy in order to fill these streets with something more than apathy. But I know this is no time to sing, Ferguson. I pray you take heart. In fact, Take everything you can except comfort. Maybe we've had too much of that now. America, don't sing. Not this time. Let this moment be more than just another hashtag. Don't shoot except to inject us with the truth. Hands in the air. This is not a picture of a protest in an archive. This is not the past. This is not surrender. We are waving in our last inhalations. We can't breathe. Please kill the music. We need to hear the screams outside. The billy clubs, the brittle cracking of the bones of our civil liberties. We got to do something before the melodies make it beautiful and the media makes it obsolete. Don't sing. Don't stay seated. Don't tweet it. We got to do something, especially now when no one knows what to do. And that canary in our lungs just wants to sing. Don't sing. We can't breathe. Don't shoot. We can't breathe. Don't sing. If this is going to be a movement, we can't sing. We got to move.